Hello, welcome to another episode of Jim's Allotment Garden. Okay, quick update on the blight. As you know, the tomato plants that we had outside had a bit of blight on, and also this tomato plant here, where the branch went outside here, that got a little bit of blight on as well. So what I did is I cut that off from outside and took it out, and it's basically airborne. So obviously this bit's outside, so it's obviously pulled it in from outside. Now what I have found is a couple of leaves below that point. This one is showing some signs of it as well. I just left this one on so I can show you. So that's basically a little bit of blight inside the greenhouse. All the branches below, obviously, so the spores, the fungal spores were dropping down, and the branches down here were affected. So I've basically cut those off, and the leaves, I've taken them off. But you just need to stay vigilant. If you have had blight, for argument's sake, this tomato here as well, as you can see, has got blight on it. What you need to do is take that out. I've just left these in here just to show you so you could see what it looked like. Anything that's diseased, get it out of the way, get it in the bin as soon as you possibly can do, and dispose of it. Don't try and put this on your compost because it'll just cause more problems for next year. Okay, so that's the diseased stalk taken out of the way, and obviously those two fruits as you've just seen me pull off. So I now know I've got nothing inside the greenhouse which is showing any signs of blight, which is all good. Now what you can do at this time of year now to minimise the chance of you getting blight is to increase the ventilation in the greenhouse as much as possible. Now obviously the first step is to leave the doors open anyway this time of year. But the windows, get them wide open, all your windows, so you've got as much through draft as you possibly can get. The next thing you can do is take off some of the leaves from the tomato plants. Now, as soon as your tomatoes really stop growing, so there's no more sort of fruits forming at the top, the plant's not going to get a lot bigger. So really what you can do is cut at least the majority of the leaves off. Now what that will do, two things: it'll allow the sunlight to get through onto your tomatoes to make them ripen that much quicker, but it will also help the air flow through. And if you've got less damp conditions, so there's more air flowing through the greenhouse, it's less likely that things like fungal issues are going to affect your greenhouse, and obviously blight is one of those. So the best thing to do at this time of year is any sort of leaves like this one here is just to cut them off at the stalk, as I've done with these going up, as you can see. Cut all the leaves off, obviously leaving the tomatoes on to ripen. But any leaves that are on, or sort of big leaves, take them off so to get some airflow underneath the plants, and sort of around to stop the any fungal issues. Obviously leave some leaves on the plants. You don't want to completely remove all leaves, but you can just leave 2 or 3 leaves on the plant and remove all the others, and then that'll greatly improve your chances of preventing blight within your greenhouse. Okay, so in the greenhouse what we've done is we've taken out a lot of the branches and leaves off the tomato plants just to get a bit more airflow in there. But it's not been free of problems. What we have got, I don't know if you can see there, but that is the starting of blight. Now a couple of branches on the back there had blight, and this one here was showing signs of it at the top, so I actually took the top off the plant because it was showing some signs of it, as you can see here. Now as soon as you've got it in the greenhouse, the likelihood is it's going to spread. So I've been keeping quite vigilant and sort of checking everything. Now we don't seem to have any kind of signs of it down here, but most certainly at this end. Now this is the hybrid rainbow hybrid F1. Now unfortunately a lot of these tomatoes haven't quite formed. Also we've got quite a lot that have ripened, and we've got some yellow ones here. But this is where air ventilation really does make so much difference. You can't really see it from here, but if you come outside, you can see here where the branches are quite sort of tight up, and you can see the signs of mildew, and that there to me looks like blight. So I'm a little bit concerned about some of these branches and the way they've gone in there. Now all I can do at the moment, because there's still tomatoes on there, you know, what I don't want to do is take the plant out altogether, but what I am going to do is cut these branches off that are affected. I can see some signs of it on this leaf here and here and that branch there, and what I'll do is I'll cut that out and take that out, try not to disturb anything around it, because basically it's a fungus, so there are spores on it, and then basically what you want to do is stop them spores from spreading. So basically what I'm going to do is pick all of these tomatoes today out of here, and what I do with the tomatoes, I make a tomato sauce for cooking with, and all I basically do is pick the tomatoes, chop them up roughly into a saucepan, a large saucepan, boil them up, and then with a liquidizer I liquidise it up, and then let that cool for a few hours, and then split that up into, I don't know, about a pint or so into each tub, and then freeze that. And then as you're cooking any sort of pasta dishes or curries or chilies or anything like that, all you need to do is take one out of the freezer and then put it into your cooking, and then you've got some really nice sort of tomato sauce to put into your dishes. So that's what the majority of this is going to be used for now. So what I'm going to do is pick a lot of these tomatoes today and get them out of the way. So because what I don't want to do is get blight spreading through the greenhouse. It's obviously already here, and the other concern that I have got is if you look at the bottom of this plant here, and this is what you need to look for. look at the branch there, and you can see this area here which is darkening there, and also at the bottom there it's going slightly dark. This one at the back here, you can see this sort of blackening here. Now that's most certainly blight. So I think these two plants, which are the two F1 hybrid plants, are actually affected right the way down to the bottom of the plant. So I think what I'm going to do is leave the moneymaker, leave the Alicante plants in here, because they don't seem to be too badly affected, and it is kind of damage limitation now. But I think what I'm going to do is take these two F1 hybrid plants out, because the plant has sort of clearly got it all the way down to the bottom. But what I need to do, because I've got other tomato plants in here, and obviously blight will affect anything, this type of blight will affect anything in the deadly nightshade family, and obviously that's tomatoes, potatoes or anything like that. So obviously I've got no tomatoes left in the garden, but what I want to do is cut out anything which is damaged and then remove it from the greenhouse as quickly as possible. And to minimise the amount of spores going into the air, what I'm going to do is cut it into sections and then walk it out to the greenhouse, put it straight into the bin. And if there's anything that's trapped around other structures inside the greenhouse, what I'm going to do is try and get it out without disturbing the spores too much. Obviously, I can't guarantee that there won't be some spores. In fact, it's almost impossible not to get it out without some spores coming off. But obviously, if you can keep that to a minimum, then you're going to keep the chance of other plants being affected down to a minimum. Now, a lot of these other tomato plants are going to be coming out before too much longer anyway, so I'm not overly concerned, because we are right at the back of the season. But what you really need to be doing at this time of year anyway is getting as much sunlight onto the tomatoes as possible. So what I will be doing is, even if the rest of these branches aren't affected by the blight, I'll be taking those off anyway, because from now on really all you want to do is get the tomatoes to ripen. one plant I've been really pleased with this year are these, and these are the Alpine strawberries. Now, I planted these out in this tray 2 years ago. If you look back through the videos, you'll see it. But all through the year, this year, I've been getting these little strawberries. They're not the best strawberries to look at, but they're really, really, really sweet and quite pleasant. And these have been fruiting and flowering. As you can see, there's still flowers coming on here. And they've been fruiting now since May, when it was in the greenhouse. I brought them outside and they've continued to fruit. And I've been getting 1 or 2 little strawberries off every week for the past sort of 5 months. So they've done really well this year. So if you have got a little space in your garden, as I say, they're just planted out in a seed tray. It's nothing more than a seed tray in there. I give them a bit of water once a week, and I've had strawberries for the past 5 months. Okay, as you can see, the birdhouse gourds have really come on. There's still loads of weight being put on with this one. This is the one that I'm hoping to make into a musical instrument. I'm going to make like a ukulele out of that one. But that'll be coming next year, because I need this to dry. And basically the way that you dry these is take them off as soon as the plant starts to die down, take them off the plant, leaving about sort of 2 or 3 inches of stalk on the gourd, and then basically store them in a well ventilated shed or sort of area like that. And then what they will do is they'll go brown and they'll go all sort of mildewy, and that's basically part of the course. They will go like that anyway as they're drying out, and it can take up to 12 months to dry these out. So what you need to be patient. Basically put them into a shed, ideally up in the air, keep turning them around so they'll dry out, and then this time next year they should be just about ready to start doing things with. So I'm going to leave them on the plants for now. Obviously they need to grow a bit further. I'm going to wait till right to the end of the season, and you'll know when the plant starts to die off, because the leaves will start to die off and that's when you know the gourds aren't going to get any bigger than they are, and then you can take them off. And obviously like this one here, what I would suggest you do is leave probably about that much stalk on it for when it's drying. A lot of people can or do leave them actually on the plant over winter and leave them outside. There's no reason why you can't leave these outside, and then they'll sort of dry outside. But with the weather conditions that we get in the UK, I would recommend that you cut them off, put them inside and let them dry out over the winter in a shed and during next year, and then this time next year, as I say, they'll be ready to start to do something with. Okay, so the gourd plants are a little bit further forward. These are not quite as far advanced as the other ones. These are the ones that were planted later. But as you can see, these gourds here are doing well. There's a bit of a blonde bit there where it's not got the sun. But what you do need to make sure you're doing is making sure that they are getting some sunlight. So every so often, just sort of make sure that they're all being rotated or whatever, so you're getting light on all of them, so they'll actually but there's still plenty coming. Now I don't know if these are actually going to, it's a bit late for these really, I don't know if they're going to actually form into anything worthwhile, but they're not costing anything. I'm just going to leave them there and see how they get on. This one here again has got plenty of little ones on, but there's nothing sort of any size except for this one here. That one's probably about 3 or 4 inches across. But as I say, you can do things with little ones as well. Now there's a number of things you can make with these gourds. You can either dry them out and literally use them as a maraca, because what they'll do is the seeds that are inside here will release actually inside it, and then what you end up with is a hard outer shell with seeds rattling around inside it. And basically if you hold them like that, you can use them as maracas, so they'll actually rattle. So they make great toys for kids if you can get them to dry so that the seeds are rattling. Or you can cut a hole in the side of it and make a birdhouse gourd like this one here. You can actually see it a bit better this way. So that's one that I made early this year. I grew it 2 years ago, and it was drying for a year, and then I basically cut a hole in it. Got all the seeds and stuff from outside. They do end up being pretty much hollow, to be honest with you, but I just drilled a hole in the side, scooped it out, and you can either paint it up like this or just leave it as it is and hang it in a tree, or I made a little stand for it. Or what you can do, if you're going to be a little bit more adventurous, what I'm planning to do with the large one around here is actually make a ukulele out of it. So what I'm going to do with this one is let it dry out, then I'm going to cut a section out of it like that and put a flat face on it there, which will obviously be the body of the ukulele, and then the neck is going to attach to this bit. If it works or not, I don't know. You'll have to wait and see, but I'm going to give it a go. I've never seen one done before, so I thought I'd give it a go. But anyway, that's what the birdhouse gourds are like at the moment, and that's what I'm planning to do with them. Okay, quick update on the chickens. As you can see, Ruby and Rhubarb have carried on growing. They're getting quite big now, and they've completely integrated into the rest of the chickens. So they're doing really well. I've switched the food over. They were on growers pellets. These are on egg layers pellets now. So these are the ones with more calcium and less protein in. But you know, not only the pellets, but they also have these are some round courgettes that they've been given over the past couple of days. So they've been going through courgettes. They also have any greens or any unwanted cucumbers or anything like that. Also peelings out of the like carrot peelings and stuff like that they like, and obviously any tomatoes that are going free as well, they'll have that. So that's what they've basically been eating over the past couple of weeks. What I will be doing is putting some brassicas in here. You can see there's the remains of one there, but I'll be putting some brassicas in here as well for them to nibble at, to have some greens. But that's really quick update on the chickens. Okay, between the rain for the past couple of weeks or so, I've been digging out potatoes as and when I can, when I've had time, and I've got a few questions that I would like to ask people. Now this year I've had a reasonably good crop of potatoes, but having said that, I'm getting about 2.5 kilograms of potatoes off each plant, and as you know, I planted 14 potatoes up each row, so you know, you can do the maths yourself. But I'm getting a reasonable amount. But what I'm getting is few potatoes, but they're quite large, and they're actually quite close to the surface of the ground, a lot more than usual. So I'm getting a lot of potatoes that have kind of poked out like this, and obviously gone green, so they can't be eaten. So I am getting, you know, quite a bit of that, which is a shame. But the potatoes that I'm getting are quite large. And the reason I'm digging them out now, obviously what I normally do is leave them in the ground as long as I can and then dig them out. But what I am doing is, I've noticed when I was digging this row here, I noticed that I was getting a few with slug damage on. So what I've decided to do is now dig them all out as and when I can. So I'll be digging a few more out today, and I'll show you some potatoes that I have been digging out over the past 24 hours to give you an idea of the size. But what I would like to do is just ask people how they've got on with their potatoes this year, to see if it's local to me, or if it's just the weather that we've been having this year. Okay, so to quantify it a bit better, on average the potatoes are coming out around that kind of big, so they're about 4 or 5 inches long and about 3 inches wide. And you know, there's a reasonable weight to each potato. Now what I normally do is I normally get about 15 potatoes on each plant, and they're normally on average probably about kind of that big. This year what I found is there's a lot fewer potatoes, and you know, they're considerably bigger than they are normally. Now I've had a few kind of this big, and this is a real monster. That's probably about 8 inches long and about 5 inches wide at the widest there. I've had quite a few potatoes which are like that, which are absolutely colossal, possibly some of the biggest potatoes I've ever grown, to be honest with you. But what I wanted to do was just ask everybody how you got on with your potatoes this year. So if you can let me know, I'll try and put some kind of idea together of how people are going on. Now I grow kestrel potatoes. These are kestrel, and they have grown a lot bigger than they do normally. So what I'd like to know from everybody is what variety of potatoes you grew, whereabouts, what county you're in the UK, or what country are you in, and how you found your potatoes compared to others this year. So are they bigger? Are there few of them? Are there more of them? Or you know, sort of whatever. Just how you find your potatoes this year compared to previous years. Now, I haven't done anything different this year than what I do normally. On each of the seed potatoes, I always leave 3 or 4 chits and plant them in exactly the same way. I put bone meal into the ground with the potatoes, and I also you know, sort of plant them in exactly the same way every year in pretty much the same piece of ground. But this year, and I always grow kestrel, so the only thing really different this year has been the weather, and I've got some real monster potatoes this year, and I'm getting something like 2 to 2.5 kilos of potatoes off each plant. So this plant here, I think, had 3 potatoes on it, but they were all really big. Other plants have potatoes on like this, and I'm getting about 7 or 8 potatoes off each plant. So I just wanted to know how everybody else was getting on, to see if it's the weather that we've had this year, or if it's some other reason. Okay, so I want to go through some of the questions and comments that have come over in the past 2 or 3 weeks. First one comes from Slasher, and he was talking about cucumber plants. Now, with the cucumber plants, what you get is the main sort of stalk which grows up, and then what you can do is get side shoots running off that. And basically, the question was, do I leave the side shoots on, or do I take them off? Now, to be honest with you, normally what I do with cucumbers, I just let them grow however they want to do. To be honest with you, I do leave the side shoots on. The reason being is, in the past, where I have had is I've had the cucumber plants growing quite nicely, and then I've left the side shoots on, and then the main shoot itself actually dies back, and then the side shoots then sort of grow on, and have and have cucumbers on, and all the rest of it. So, in all honesty, with cucumbers, I leave them on. I do know people who take them off and just leave the one stalk running. But I typically leave them on and then just tie them up as they're sort of growing up, and I have had cucumbers off the side runners, so I just got to leave them to it, to be honest with you. Next question comes from Dan Spatewater, asking about picking climbing beans. Now, you are right. What I should have done with the climbing beans, what I should have done was carried on picking them. Now, I wanted to keep some seeds for next year, so I did, sort of mindfully leave some beans on there, and to be honest with you, I have picked off quite a few kilos, but as you can see from the amount that's left on there, I should have kept picking. Now, it's the first year I've grown these. I've grown dwarf beans before, which are very similar to to the actual beans to look at, but they only grow about sort of 2 or 3 foot like a bush. So this is the first time I've grown these climbing beans, this particular variety, and because they were so nice, I wanted to keep some seeds for next year, to save buying any more. So I did mindfully leave the beans on to, so I could get some seed for next year. But what I should have done was carried on picking them a bit longer than I actually did. And I think if you carry on picking beans, it actually encourages the plant to grow even more. So I think I stopped picking them too early, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I've got plenty of seeds for next year, and next year I'll be that much wiser to to keep picking at them and sort of get more of a crop. The other thing that I would do, if I'm being perfectly honest, is I'd have picked them earlier than I did as well, because what I did is I waited for them to completely form, and then I picked them. So they were, I don't know, probably about 8mm, 9mm across when I picked them. What I should have done was pick them when they were much earlier, when they were only, I don't know, about 4 or 5mm across, so they were, they're quite small and thin, and I think they're probably nicer that way, because I did pick some like that. And when I was eating them, I thought they're actually nicer when they're younger. So yeah, next year I'll be a little bit wiser, and I'll be picking a lot more, a lot sooner, and not leaving so many on for seed. Next one comes from Tina and Jason. They were saying about the runner bean seeds, and what they do is they pick the runner beans, as normal, and sort of chop them up and freeze them. And then when they run to seed, what they do is they actually save the seed. But what Tina does is she uses the seed itself in stew. So basically, dry the seed as though you're saving it for seed, and then when you're cooking the stew, just put a handful into the stew, and then obviously they'll rehydrate in the stew, and then you've got the actual bean seed in the stew as well. So that's another idea of what you can use if you've got a glut of runner bean seeds. So that's a good tip, thank you, Tina. Next one comes from Brian Hubry, and he was saying that he stores his potatoes in a shed in paper sacks, and then what he does is he covers them over with some fleece just to protect them against the frost and stuff. And that's exactly what I do, Brian. What I do is the shed that you can't really see from it because of all the tomato plants, but the shed behind me, what I do is I keep my potatoes in sacks or in trugs, you know, the big plastic tubs, and I keep them in there, making sure that they're not damp. They're perfectly dry when they go in there. And what I do is I put over some fleece, some of the black fleece, and what that does is two things. One, it keeps the light out. Secondly, it stops any frost from getting in there and damaging them. But that's basically how I store my potatoes in the shed. The bigger the shed, the better, because it's got a bigger thermal mass. And if you are putting them in a shed, what I would suggest you do is get them up off the ground. Now, my shed's got a wooden floor, which is about it's about a foot actually off the ground, so any ground frost won't sort of penetrate up too much. If you've got a concrete floor, obviously that will cool down a lot quicker. And so, if you have got a concrete floor or a slabbed floor in your shed, what I suggest you do is you lift the sacks up. Maybe put a pallet on the floor or something like that, and just try to get them up off the ground onto wood, and then that will stop them from the cold from underneath them damaging the potatoes at the bottom of the sack. Next one, he was saying about watering tomatoes in the morning. Now, Brian, he works late shift, so what he does is in the morning, a routine that works for him is he will go up to his allotment in the morning, or his greenhouse in the morning, water his greenhouse in the morning, and then he will then be able to sort of go to work and do that. Now, the important thing is routine. You can water tomatoes late at night or early in the morning, or even both if you want to. If you've got the time to water them both in the morning and in the afternoon, that's probably the best scenario of all. But as long as you water them on a regular basis, at least once a day, really the time of day isn't too important. It's better to water at the beginning of the day or at the end of the day rather than in the middle. But yeah, it works either way. I always water mine. I work early at work, so I go. I've left the house by 7 o'clock in the morning, so I always water mine at night. It's about sort of 7-8 o'clock. You know what I'm faffing about. So yeah, so that's the way Brian does it. Next comment comes from Slasher, and he was saying that the allotment looked really nice, and you could see how much time and effort I spend on it. To be honest with you, this year it's not really worked out particularly well. I've been so busy with other things. I haven't spent anywhere near as much time at the allotment as I normally do. In fact, there's been quite a few weeks where I've literally come up and watered the greenhouse, and that's pretty much it. So this year the allotment's not quite as tidy as it is normally, to be honest with you. But I've had other things I've had to get on with and stuff like that. So, but yeah, thanks for your comments anyway. But personally, I don't think the allotment looks tidy at the minute. There's far too many weeds on it. The next comment from Slasher was he said that he grows his tomatoes in buckets, and I've done this in the past. But what he's saying, and I'm not quite sure your comment, but you're saying you've watered the tomatoes in the buckets, and then they're still damp a few days later. And I'm not sure if you've actually got buckets without any holes in the bottom. And I guess you can do that if you control the water that you're putting on there. But what you don't want to do is get tomatoes sitting in water. They don't like that. They do like some drainage. But yeah, there's no reason why you can't do that if you control how much water's going in there, and only water them when they need it. The next comment's really from me, because I was thinking about Slash's comment, and one good thing that you can do with tomatoes is if you grow them in big black pots. So if you get I don't know if I've got any greenhouse at least, but if you get a reasonable sized pot, sort of, I don't know, about 12-inch pot, which is about a foot deep, so not far from bucket size, fill that with really good compost and plant your tomato in there. What you can do is get these black trays. Most garden centres will sell them. I've got a few out the back here, and what that'll do is you can basically water the tomato from the bottom. But if you don't sit the pot in the water, what you want to do is, or at least to start with, you can. But what you want to do is lift the tomato, the pot out of the water and sit it on some either gravel or I don't know, some tiles or something underneath, just to lift it up out of the water. And what the tomato plant will do is it'll actually send roots out of the bottom of the pot and into the water. So you'll have roots that are in the water, and then you have roots that are in the pot. You do need to water the pot, obviously, because it needs to get the goodness from the soil and compost in there. But it'll also have roots that are in the water, so it'll be able to get water from the bottom of the tray as well. So that works quite well for a few people that I know. But what you need to do is wait for the roots to go out the bottom of the pot first. So when the plant's been in there a few weeks, and then it'll be able to take water from the tray as well. So that works out quite well. That works really well is if you're going away on holiday, or if you're not able to be with your tomatoes every day. What you can do is do that tray trick, and then you only need to water the plants once a week or something like that. So if you've got less time on your hands, and you want to make sure that the plants have some water, then having a tray underneath the plant with some water in will enable you to sort of not have to water them every day, if you know what I mean. Next one comes from Janice Wood, and she was talking about strawberry plants, and we were talking about these little strawberry plants that we've been taking over the past few weeks. And she was saying, how long do you keep the mother plants? Now, it's debatable, and I think it depends on the variety. There's quite a few varieties of tomato plants, and it depends how the plant's been growing as well. But what I would suggest you do is, with a tomato plant, it is always best. The first year it's not going to do a lot. The second and third year, that's when you're going to get the most amount of fruit off the plant. And then after that it will tail off. But there's no reason why you can't keep a tomato plant for 5-6 years potentially. What you need to look for on an older tomato plant is you'll get, at the bottom of the plant, sort of in sort of there, what you'll get is like a woody section forming at the bottom of the plant. As soon as that gets about as big as your thumb or your finger, that's the time to take the plant out. That's the way I always gauge it. Now, what I've got in my strawberry patch is I've got plants that are all different ages, to be honest with you, because as one gets a bit older, I pull it out and put a new one in. So I'm constantly recycling that way. Some people grow them and then they take them all out and then put all the plants in. Obviously that's another way to do it. Now I am going to take all of mine out and replace them either next year or well, yeah, it's got to happen next year. Possibly this year I might do it, but in that instance, what I would do is try to put some of the old plants back, because they're the ones that are going to give you fruit next year, and then the younger plants can grow on next year and then give you fruit, sort of come up. So to get a constant sort of amount of fruit coming every year, what I would suggest you do is you have a number of you have plants in there of different ages, and then they'll sort of get to their sort of peak performance, if you like, in different years, and then you'll always have fruit coming. But in direct answer to your question, I think the mother plants or the developed plants, you can have them up to the time where they're 5 years old or so. To be honest with you, they reach the peak at 3 years. After that, they will tail off. But there's no reason why you won't get a good crop off a plant that's 5 years old, as long as it's been kept healthy and it's not got too woody. But the way to judge it, I always think, is if you get like a wooden, sort of really wood, it looks like a little palm tree, to be honest with you. The bottom bit. As soon as that bit starts to go woody, that's when you need to take the plant out and put a fresh one in. Basically, that's the way I do it. Next question comes from Slasher, and he was talking about strawberries this year. He took some cuttings or some runners earlier in the year, and he said he's had some sort of runners coming off. Yeah, if you've got a plant that you've taken this year, what you wanted to do is focus on itself and basically sort of develop its root structure, so you've got some good roots coming out of the plant. So if any runners do come off, if you've taken it earlier in the year, what you can get is some runners coming off it. As Slasher has, cut them off. You don't want the energy to go into this making any other plant, you want it to go into itself. So if you do get any runners coming off or any flowers, take them off, because they're not going to produce much fruit or any at all. So take any flowers off, take any runners off, and just make sure that the plant develops itself, so it's a good healthy plant for next year. So that was a good tip. Next one comes from Erin Descartes, and asking, I think you saw an earlier video, asking about the skull up the corner of the greenhouse. I don't know if I can get it out at the moment, But yeah, this is, I can assure you, this is a plastic skull, and I did a Halloween special a couple of years ago video, and I've just never taken it out of the greenhouse. It is plastic, as you can see. You know, it's not a real skull, but yeah, I'll just keep it up there to keep any evil spirits out of the greenhouse. But yeah, don't worry, it's not the person who had the greenhouse before. And the next comment that comes from me, really, the one thing I've seen this year, August typically what we get is a reasonable amount of rain, and then we get like a lot of mould and mildew and stuff on various plants. This year it's come late. We've had quite a hot, dry August, and September we've had a sudden drop in temperature, and we've had lots of rain, so the humidity's been pretty high as well. And what I have noticed is plants that don't normally get mildew on are getting mildew, and I've seen it on not mine, but I've seen it on courgette plants, pumpkin plants. I've seen it on roses. I've seen a rose bush that's just white with mildew. It's just completely covered with mildew. I've also seen it on lavender plants, which I don't normally see it, which is unusual, because lavender doesn't typically suffer with it. And obviously we've had things like blight in the greenhouse and on the external plants as well. So I just wanted to say a quick note that this year it's come late. We have had mildew, and we've had mould, and we've had fungus growing on things, but it has come a little bit later than it does normally. We normally get it last week in August, third or fourth week in August. That's when we typically get the problem. This year it's come kind of first and second week in September, but I'm surprised how strongly it's gone through. We've had fungal problems with onions this year in the allotments that we don't normally get. We've had it on garlic, which is not so uncommon, but we've had it on all the garlic. We've had it on the onions. We've had it on gourds. Touch wood, none of my gourds have actually had a problem, but I do know people who have had it. We've had 3 or 4 people who've had their tomato crops completely wiped out with blight, and potatoes. They've had potatoes taken out as well. So anything from the deadly nightshades group of plants, so tomatoes and aubergines and potatoes and stuff like that, they'll suffer with blight. And you know, I can see evidence of blight on these plants here as well, which I'm going to cut all of these leaves off and take whatever ripe fruit is present now on the plants off, so I can make some sauce today. But unfortunately it's getting to the end of the season now, and this is when you start to get these problems. So you know, if you have, you know, you need to keep an eye on these things, and if you have got blight or mildew or anything like that, cut off any affected bushes or leaves, or if the plant's got it all over, take the entire plant out before it spreads into the rest of your greenhouse. Take whatever fruits off that you can, even if it's green, and that will ripen in the greenhouse. Now, in the last video I showed you the tomatoes that I got outside. I showed you the tomatoes that were on there. I took them off the plants and discarded the plants. Now, there must have been, you saw the clip in the video, there was about, I don't know, about 20, 25, 30 tomatoes that I got off the plant. Half of them showed signs of blight after a few days, so they started to ripen, then they started getting, you know, sort of brown bits on them and stuff, so it was obviously blight. So out of those tomatoes I only actually saved about probably about 18, 19 actual tomatoes. They're perfectly fine, and they've been eaten, they were lovely. But you know, even though you take the tomatoes off the plant, there's no reason to say that you're going to get you know, blight actually on the tomato. As I say, it's a fungus. The spores, they're in the air, they're everywhere. What you can do is wash the tomatoes. If your plant has had blight, wash the tomatoes. Make sure that they're dry, because it's the moisture which will make them develop. But if you wash them first, that'll get rid of any spores that are on there. Maybe even a little bit of soap as well. Just wash the tomato, obviously rinse it off so there's no soap on there, and then dry them off, put them on a windowsill, and then you should have the best results possible then. But don't be surprised if some of them do have blight on them and you'll need to throw them away. So what I did is basically put them on the windowsill, let them start to ripen. But every day or so, I was turning them up and making sure that they were all healthy. And if they were okay, I'd put them back. If they were showing some signs of blight coming, I'd just get rid of put it in the bin straight away. Because if there is one with blight, it will spread. As soon as the spores form, they will spread onto the others, and it will take the lot. So if you do see any early signs of blight, get them out of the way, get it in the bin, get it away from the healthy ones, and then you should end up with some good tomatoes at the end of the day. So, I hope this episode has been of some use to you. Please don't hesitate to put any comments or questions you've got below, and I'll always get back to you. And I'll see you on the next episode of Jim's Home and Garden.